Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Father Ted Talks. Today, I wanted to tell you just one thing. Don't call the priest last minute. So, this, I know this, the title of this video might have gotten your attention a bit, don't call the priest. What do you mean by that, Father? Well, it's not that you shouldn't call the priest, but rather don't call the priest last minute. Now, what am I talking about? Of course, I am talking about the phenomenon that we have in the Orthodox Church, where when somebody gets sick, a lot of times we don't think about calling our clergy, our priest, until that person is on their deathbed. Now, this is a very, very bad kind of not tradition, but rather tendency that a lot of Orthodox, have kind of fallen into. Right? We've kind of forgotten the fact that within the church we have prayers and services and devotionals to every aspect of our lives. Right, from the moment that we are born to the moment that we pass away, and at every stage of our life, we accompany all these kind of major, life events with prayer. And so, when somebody gets sick, we should call our priest immediately. That's the first person that we should call, so that we can ask for the prayers of the church, so that the priest can come and pray for us, that we will get better. But what happens is a lot of times is that we don't think about that. Somebody gets sick, the first thing they do is they call their doctor, or they go to the hospital, they go to the clinic, they go to their family physician, they get diagnosed, they go through all the processes of trying to get better by worldly means, with medications and things like that, which of course is not a bad thing, it's a very good thing, but they tend to neglect the spiritual side of it. And then when all those things don't go their way, and things become dire, and somebody is terminal, and they know that they're going to pass away, then usually they turn to their faith. And so in these cases, we kind of treat God, I always say, like a parachute, and what is a parachute there in an airplane for? It's like the last resort. Plane's going down, we need the emergency parachute to kind of save ourselves last minute. And this is the way God is often viewed, and by extension, the priest and the church and the sacraments. But this is not a fair way to view God, and it's also not a faithful way to view God, because God is supposed to be with us during our whole journey in life. And so if we only tend to call the priest when we're at the end, then of course it is normal that society is going to begin to associate the priest, or the presence of the priest, with death. And of course this already happens. A lot of times when I go to hospitals, and even like non-Orthodox nurses or doctors see me, they say, "Uh-oh, someone's about to die, here comes the priest." And so there's this association with the priest and death, which is not a healthy association. Rather, when the priest is coming, it should be like, "Oh, good, there's hope that we can overcome this. We can do a holy unction service. We can do a prayer for healing. We can kind of get the whole church to start praying for our loved ones, so that they can pull out of this very, very difficult illness." So, this phenomenon of calling the priest last minute is not a good one, because we are kind of like robbing the individual of the opportunity to have the church at their side, and to also possibly be healed. Because healing doesn't only come through medical means, but also through spiritual means. Sometimes that also means that we are healed physically, but it's more important to also look at the spiritual healing, that somebody prepares and heals themselves spiritually for whatever happens, so that if they get better, they glorify the Lord, and they spend the rest of their lives, dedicating their lives to Him and to His service. And if they don't get better and they happen to pass away, that their soul is ready for that transition into the afterlife. And so we don't want to rob that person of that journey, and of the opportunity to grow spiritually in any trials and tribulation that we have. Another thing that kind of the title of this video denotes, which is "Don't call the priest last minute," is that a lot of times it's not only that we won't call the priest when we're sick. A lot of times we won't even call the priest when the person is terminal, and we wait until the very last seconds or minutes or even hours of the person's life. Often that person is not even lucid, they're in a coma, or they're non-responsive for some reason, and we wait until that very last moment to call the priest. So now not only have we neglected the whole time, from the time the person got diagnosed of a terminal illness to the time when they're going to pass away, we've neglected all that, but we've even we've robbed that person of the ability to even prepare themselves for death, to confess, to be able to express any regrets, or to set things right with the priest and with other family members, to have spiritual guidance. So we take away even that from that person, and we let them slip into the final moments of their lives, where they're usually in a coma or something, or they're non-responsive. And then when the priest comes, there's not much he can do. He can read the prayers for them, he can commune them if they're able to commune, but he can't do much more for that. And a lot of times families don't realize that this is like the bare minimum that we're doing. And sometimes they think that it's like a magical thing. The priest has come, he did this special prayer, he gave them the special communion, and now they'll be at peace. But that's not how it works, right? The communion is not a magical thing. The prayers are not magical incantations of a shaman. Rather, all these are part of a process for the person to be able to prepare for dying. And so, again, when we wait until the very last minute, we are robbing the person of a good death. We are robbing the person of a proper preparation for death, right? And everybody deserves that. And one other thing, and the last thing that I'll end with, is that also, when we wait until the very last moment, we assume that we know exactly when that person's going to die, and we assume that the priest will always be available at our beck and call whenever we call him. And what happens often, more often than I would like to admit, is that somebody calls and says, father, or my mother, or my friend, whatever, is about to pass away. They literally have maybe hours or even minutes left. You need to come right now. And the priest will do his best to get there, but maybe the priest can't get there on time. Maybe the priest is in a big parish, for example, like mine here. Maybe the priest is already at another hospital across town, or he is at another emergency, or it's going to take him time to get there. And so the priest says, well, the fastest I can make it there physically is, like, let's say 45 minutes away. And in that time that it takes for the priest to get there, the person passes away. And this happens quite often. And a lot of times the families get upset that the priest was not able to show up on time, because they assume that the priest is always available 24/7. And so this is another mistake that we make, that when we wait the very last second, we are leaving a lot of things up to chance. We are leaving a lot of things up to the ability of the priest to make it there on time. And then when it doesn't happen, then that's another burden on the family, and it's yet another opportunity that we are depriving the person who's passing away of getting, which is Holy Communion and last rites. So all these things basically culminate in remembering that when somebody is sick, when somebody is in spirit in physical danger, they will inevitably also be in spiritual danger. And the first person that we should be calling, along with our doctor, is our priest, to let him know what's going on, to ask for his advice, to ask for his prayers and the prayers of the church, so that we always have this kind of connection with our local parish, with our priest, and with the church, and with the sacraments of the church. Whatever happens in our lives, we should always be doing that, good or bad. When we get pregnant, there's prayers for a good pregnancy. When a woman gives birth, there's prayers for giving birth. When somebody gets sick, there's prayers to get better. When a person is going through anxiety or depression or other kind of difficulties, there's prayers for that. There's prayers for everything. And so to cultivate a good relationship with the church and with our priest and with our local parish is extremely key. If we allow everything to kind of, go into the very last minute and then we call the priest, then usually it doesn't go well. It's rushed. And a lot of times the priest will not be able to get there. And so if you're going to take anything away from this video, it is this, that, don't call your priest last minute. Call your priest early. Make sure that you give him time to help your loved one, or give yourself time to be helped by the church. Don't leave things until last minute, because we never know what God's plan is for us. And we don't know what life will bring us. Till next time, take care and God bless.